Happy Saturday, everyone. Get ready for some heat going into your final weekend of July. Temperatures are going to be getting to the mid-90s today and tomorrow with lots of sun. That is really the main focus this weekend, is the ongoing heat that may progressively get worse heading into the new work week as we finish up the month of July. Now, this weekend, our feels like temperatures will be in the triple digits, up to 100 to maybe 105 degrees. The reason why the feels like isn't even higher this weekend is because we have some slightly drier air that's hanging out over the Gulf Coast, making it feel not as oppressively muggy outside, but it is still going to be very hot, and we will be mostly dry with not a lot of rain to cool us off. There could be one or two stray showers around maybe the lakefront and maybe along the coast, triggered by the lake breeze or the sea breeze, but I don't think we're going to see much rain at all this weekend because we'll have an area of high pressure building in across the lower Mississippi River Valley. But we'll have lots of heat, lots of sun, with temperatures in the mid to even maybe the upper 90s for some of us. Here's the heat index forecast in the coming days. It'll get gradually hotter too, up to maybe feeling like 105 this afternoon, possibly up to 107 on Sunday, and then possibly up to 110 plus Monday, and then into the rest of the work week too, because we'll actually see some more moisture returning and that dry air will be on its way out at that point. So we're going to be feeling even hotter going into the new week ahead. So you want to make sure you're staying safe in the heat if you plan to be outside this weekend, especially as the kids are finishing up summer break. They're going to be out and about enjoying the outdoors. So make sure they have lots of water. You have lots of water. Try to take breaks in the shade or air conditioning if possible, especially if you have to work outside in this heat. In addition to this weekend, in addition to the week ahead, you want to make sure you're just taking breaks out there. Dress appropriately, of course, wear those light, loose-fitting clothes, use sun protection. Sunscreen is a must, and make sure you reapply that sunscreen if you go swimming, go to the pools, the splash pads, things like that. You need sunglasses, maybe a hat too, and don't leave anything important in the car before you close the door and go to the grocery store or go wherever you're going. Just make sure you're always checking the back seat to be mindful of that. Speaking of the heat, we have a building heat wave across the Midwest and the western part of the U.S. Several states dealing with extreme heat warnings, heat watches, heat advisories. Several states with several days of heat ongoing. Those heat advisories extend all the way into Texas. We don't have any heat advisories across our part of the Gulf Coast or heat warnings just yet. That could change, though, heading into the next few days as this high pressure heat dome off to the west extends a bit farther off to the east and has an influence on our weather. That is why we're going to continue to see really hot and mostly dry conditions in the coming days. It's not till later in the week we start to see that high pressure move a bit to the west and give us somewhat of a break in the heat at that point. But here we go. Near record heat possible starting really tomorrow, but ramping up into the new work week. This is when our air temperatures, the actual temperature, will get to the upper 90s, close to the triple digits outside. So we may either get close to existing records or maybe tie them, maybe break them. We will see, but we'll definitely be in record heat territory for many days this week coming up. Another thing we have to watch is an added level of moisture coming back across the Gulf Coast this week. That's why it's going to feel even hotter, oppressively muggy and humid, because we get the actual air temperatures way up there. You get more moisture coming back in. It really weighs on you, and it really makes it feel incredibly hot outside. And then as that high pressure backs a bit to the west by later in the week, our rain chances may go up a bit by next week. The latter part of next week, like Thursday, Friday, we'll bring back a few more hit or miss storms that could help cool us off just a little bit. So what's the big weather impact this week is extreme heat for the work week ahead, for those feels like temperatures, possibly in what we would call, in the dangerous territory, especially if you have to be outside all day. You work in these conditions that could really have an effect on you. So feels like up to 110 plus possible starting Monday, but even lasting into the midweek time frame. So almost every day it could feel like that starting on Monday, continuing until about Wednesday, Thursday, until we get to those higher rain chances later in the week into next weekend. So every day we're talking extreme heat coming up. One good thing is out in the Atlantic Basin, out in the tropics, we are nice and quiet. No tropical concerns, nothing expected to develop over the next week. Plenty of Saharan dust in the Atlantic Basin that really helps to squash any tropical development, dries the air out. So we stay quiet in the tropics as we wrap up the month of July. But out in the East Pacific, different story, which is pretty typical for an El Nino, which we are currently in. El Nino typically means we're going to have less wind shear in the Pacific Ocean, which means tropical systems, hurricanes, tropical storms are more easily and readily able to be formed. And we are really seeing that play out this season. Also, El Nino helps us out in the Atlantic basin by increasing that vertical wind shear. So we are seeing less tropical systems develop in the Atlantic basin. However, of course, we know closer to home in the Gulf, we've already had two named storms, Arthur and now Bertha, that formed closer to home in the Gulf. Those homegrown storms, like we mentioned, really play by their own rules. They're not really affected by the increased vertical wind shear in the Atlantic. So we're going to keep watching the Gulf, especially as we head into the peak of hurricane season, which we know is through August and September. But here's a quick look at what's happening in the eastern Pacific Ocean. We obviously do not have to worry about this here at home in the Gulf Coast, but we're going to check on what's happening out in the eastern Pacific. We've got two big storms. Hurricane Fausto, 100-mile-per-hour winds. It's a Category 2 right now. It's going to keep moving west and actually will be moving over Hawaii early in the week coming up. But the good thing is it's expected to weaken as it moves over the islands throughout the early to mid part of the week coming up. Another storm just developed, Tropical Storm Genevieve in the eastern Pacific, also expected to move northwest in the coming days and could strengthen, but it's going to be out in the open Pacific Ocean. So just an update on what's happening out in the East Pacific, since one of those storms is going to be impacting Hawaii. So if you have any travel plans out there, a tropical storm is going to be impacting the Hawaiian Islands going into early this week coming up. But for us along the Atlantic basin, we are staying nice and quiet. Let's keep it that way. Fingers crossed the rest of the season we are nice and quiet. I really hope so. Time will tell, of course. But here's your 7-day forecast. What we have going on this week is lots of heat, lots of sun, not much rain. Temperatures in the mid to upper 90s this weekend. It will feel like around 100+ degrees, maybe up to 110+ during the work week ahead. But we finally get a chance for a few more hit or miss storms mid to late week, especially on Friday. Those rain chances go up.